Hello, welcome to our chapter by chapter devotional through the entire Bible. This morning we're going to be in Genesis chapter 14. What I'll do is I'll give you a summary of what happened and to give you some, just point to some spiritual truths, some points of interest along the way. So Genesis 14 starts off with a pretty lengthy description of various kings and how they get together. But the end result of all these kings getting together, one group of kings opposed to another group of kings, is that there's war. And this particular war encompasses the area of Sodom, and that's the area, as you may remember, where the nephew Lot has decided to live. So this was a poor choice on Lot's part to live in an ungodly place by choice, he wasn't forced to do that. And as a result, there's a disaster for Lot. We're told in verses 11 and 12 that the enemy took all the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their possessions and went their way. And they also took Lot, the son of Abram's brother, who was dwelling in Sodom, and his possessions, and they went their way. So everything he's gained, or he thought he had gained by choosing to be financially blessed instead of spiritually blessed, he's lost in one moment through this war. And that's just a reminder to us that consequences have, compromise has consequences. When we compromise, when we choose an unwise course, when we value worldly things above godly things, ultimately those compromises have consequences, and we see that in the life of Lot. At this point, Abraham, his name is called Abram at this point, he is informed about his nephew Lot being captured. He gathers the troops from his own household. He goes out and rescues Lot and captures the various people who, or not captures, but defeats the enemies who had defeated the people of Sodom, and brought back all of their possessions and rescued his nephew Lot. And that's a reminder to us that godly people rescue the fallen even when it's their own fault. You see, his nephew Lot made a bad decision, but Abraham didn't sit there and say, well, it's your own fault, you got yourself into this mess, you can get yourself out of it. Rather, Abraham acted in love and went out to risk his own self and make his own sacrifices to rescue his nephew Lot, even though it was Lot's own fault. Upon returning from this great victory, Abram meets two kings, the king of Salem, called Melchizedek, and the king of Sodom. One king, the king of Salem, Abraham honors and gives a tenth of his captures of his booty. And the other king, though, the king of Sodom, Abraham refuses to have any connection to. So let me read that. Starting in verse 17, it says, after Abraham's return from the defeat of Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him, the king of Sodom went out to meet him at the valley of Shaveh, that is the king's valley. And then it starts talking about Melchizedek. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was a priest of the God Most High. And he blessed him and said, blessed be Abram by God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And Abram gave him a tenth of everything. And the king of Sodom said to Abram, give me the persons, but take the goods for yourself. But Abraham said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted my hand to the Lord, God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, that I would not take a thread or a sandal strap or anything that is yours, lest you should say that I made Abram rich. So several things are going on here. First, we see the king of Salem. We learn later in the book of Hebrews that this king who's also a priest is a picture of Jesus, who's both a king and priest. We are reminded, and Melchizedek reminds Abram that his victory was because of God. It says in verse 20, Melchizedek said to Abraham, blessed be the God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. It's a reminder to us that any victories, any success, anything good that we have in our life, that's because God has done it, and he deserves all the glory and praise. And then very interestingly, we see that Abram refuses anything from the king of Sodom. And he says this, I don't want to take anything of yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich. And what Abram's concern here is that it's for God's glory. You see, if he takes this money from Sodom, Sodom can always claim that he made Abram rich. And Abraham wants people to know that God is the source of all his supply, so he refuses that. And that's just an example to us of how you and I need to put God's glory and his praise and honor above anything else. Hope this has been a blessing to you. Have a blessed day.